Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of season 3 of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest. I am your host, Dosky. I have a giant crew to talk about the playoff picture and what we can expect over the next couple of weeks as the baseball season comes to a close. Tavi, Joseph, plenty of times I've seen both of you recently. Joey, James, have not seen either of you recently, so welcome back, but longtime members of both Diamond Digest and the show. So excited to have you two back. We'll start with some shout outs. We'll all have our little round table of, it's been a little bit since we've been on air. We'll all have something to shout out. We'll cover some of the main highlights outside of the playoff picture. Then we'll get into our playoff preview, playoff predictions, all the good things to come over the next couple of weeks of baseball. We're going to end with our favorite moments of the year. I think it's a fun way to kind of tie everything together as we end the regular season, get ready for what is to come, and hopefully it's some exciting baseball over the next couple of weeks. But before we get going, how's everyone doing? Good?
Good.
Quite excellent.
There we go. There's some enthusiasm. We got like 3 Dodgers fans on here. You're going to be watching playoff baseball. Some of us don't have that joy in life.
Yeah,
We've all been through October before.
Yeah, joy in life. My life expectancy goes down like 6 years every October.
I can't wait to have my Twitter timeline full of people talking about Mickey Mouse rings and how this one doesn't count for some stupid reason if they end up winning it. So...
I mean, look at it this way. The 2 teams that I support are going to lose a combined like 201 games this year.
Nationals and Tigers?
Yeah. Rough go this year.
Who am I to judge? My White Sox are just mired in mediocrity as far as it can be at 81. I'll trade you guys and your Dodger timelines anytime, though. So whenever you feel like you're ready to pass over the torch, head up to the south side of Chicago and we'll be good to go.
No, I lived through the McCourt years. I'm good.
I was like, we're good.
My parents are Sox fans. I hear it from them.
Yeah, it's not a fun time, but we'll get into that a little bit because there was some news on the south side that was not an 81-81 record. So, but let's jump into shout outs. This is what we'll do. Since it's been a little bit, everyone's got something they want to talk about. And rather than try and fit it in or squeeze it in somehow, let's just give everybody a chance to shout someone, something, someone, anything out in terms of what's happened in baseball over the past couple of weeks. Tavi, let's start with you.
All right, I'm going to get real depressing real quick. So here's the...
All right, let's not start with you.
No, it's not that bad. So around the All-Star game, I'm sure if you were kind of paying attention, there was maybe a blip that came across your either Twitter dash or radar about the stadium workers at Dodger Stadium unionizing. And the big thing was that they were going to strike the All-Star game, All-Star week. And they ended up not doing that. It's not going well for them right now. Their unionization efforts are very slow. No one's wanted to go on the record about it, but I've talked to a couple stadium workers, in passing. I talked for a long time to a security person. It's not going well. They're not doing them right. There's union busting tactics that are happening. Now this is based off like one person kind of complaining. So please take it with a big grain of salt. But it's really, really frustrating to be so proud of what's happening on the field and what's going on with the team and the positive masculinity and the friendship and the bonds and everything that like they really tout happening on the field when it just feels like they're really doing the people who make their stadium run down and dirty. It was especially galling that I kind of heard this during that Diamondbacks stretch because they had just done this ceremony, like celebrating how many years several stadium workers had been there, security guards, ushers, things like that. So it's really frustrating. I've kind of been chatting with some actual real reporters who don't just talk about butts all the time about trying to like get into this. I don't want to talk a whole lot about it because I haven't really fact checked anything because that's not what I do. I talk about butts all day. But just know that it is not, the fight is not going as well as I think people think. Or at least it wasn't according to some of the people I talked to. So, just be aware, something may happen during playoffs, something may not happen during playoffs. It really depends on, I think, in the next couple weeks, what happens, how negotiations go. There are a lot of contracts that are up in November that were, again, hearsay, like supposedly there were contracts that were up in November that were supposed to be renewed by now already, and they have not been. And there was some skullduggery with addresses and payments during the pandemic. So just be aware that might be a thing that happens. And it also might get paved over, like, you know, with so much mustard on a Dodger dog. But like, it just, it's really frustrating to kind of hear stadium employees talk that way when you're walking out of, like, you know, I think it was like win 106 when I left, you know. And so just be aware. If you do go to Dodger Stadium, if you travel there for playoff games, just be super nice to the stadium workers. And you know, they're going through it and they're trying to be fair and get fair pay. And the Dodgers and Levy, the corporation that's technically running their payroll, doing some weird, not great things, according to a handful of people I just kind of chatted with. So that's fun.
They're trying to do something that doesn't happen a lot. And
yeah,
you're trying to set the foundation for others to follow past, and it's not going to be an easy path.
Yeah.
Just
there are union jobs at the stadium. I
Mhm.
please don't quote me on this, but I think security is union and there's a couple others, but they're also just having problems getting in touch with their security reps. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes that fans are not privy to unless they stop and ask. And I really encourage people to, you know, within reason, like, don't hold up the line, because that just makes their job harder. But like, if you see someone with a union strong button on who's not really, you know, doing something vital, maybe talk to them about it and ask their opinion and let them know that, you know, you're behind them and you hope that they get fair pay, because they help run the stadium and they help make these amazing wins, you know, fun.
Right. And I think it's something where, like you said, it came out around the All-Star break. You heard about it, and then you stopped hearing about it. So people not stop caring about it, but stop putting it.
Stop hearing about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you stop caring about it. It's not at the top of your mind. So it's nice to have some sort of an update. It's not great to hear. It's not a great update, but it's.
And I do want to reiterate that this was just based off like one or two people. I don't know if they knew the whole situation, or, you know, they could have just been grumbling. But the fact that they aren't unionized yet, that they're being shady about it, and it's not good.
The less you hear isn't necessarily a good thing. But
yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So
the other thing that is worth mentioning that is true is that they had a Twitter account that was documenting the move, and that is now gone. There is no, as of right now, at least that I could find. And the person I talked to, one of them said that they were being severely discouraged from going on social media about things, which is never a good thing.
Right. Especially in an age where a lot of information is only getting out that way.
Yeah.
So, no, it's good to know. It's unfortunate to hear, but again,
but 111 wins, woo!
Yeah,
you know, it's not.
That's the other half of it.
Well, the other part of it is, like, you know, we're not the highest payroll anymore, so we're a poverty franchise. Oops.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, it's not like they don't have the money to pay people.
Yeah, sure. Poverty franchise over there in LA. Let's just go to another LA fan here, and let's just run through the line. Joseph, who are your shout-outs?
Shout out Albert Pujols and Aaron Judge, who did the coolest things in sports in the coolest way imaginable. I think Aaron Judge intentionally did not hit 62 for a while because he wanted to get people introduced to the beautiful game of baseball by watching another exploitative thing, college football. And maybe he got a few more eyes on it. Probably not, because those at-bats were rough to watch. But he finally did it. Thank goodness, because we have a new clean home run record just in the nick of time. And I also want to do a little mini shout out to the guy who went over the railing at Globe Life Field in the bullpen to try and get that thing. Worth a shot. It's $2 million.
Did not work out.
And then Albert Pujols. Little bit mad about this one because backstage stuff. I had tickets to go Saturday to Cardinals Dodgers in the left field pavilion. I'm like, okay, he's close. He could hit 700. And then he hit 699. I was really excited. And then he hit 700. And I'm like, oh God.
Off of poor Phil
I just missed
Bickford.
it. But it's still super significant and super cool that he got to 700 when nobody thought he had a chance 2 years ago, the way things were going, especially after he got released by the Angels. And even at the All-Star break, no one thought he had a chance. But him to turn back the clock like this and just hit him one after another off righties and lefties, when a lot of people, myself included, were saying he can only hit lefties anymore really well. I think that's just incredible, and it's something we're going to talk about for a long, long time.
I don't think I really looked at Albert Pujols' stats at any point this year. In 350 plate appearances, he has a 550 slugging. I think that got away from me just the sheer rate at which a 42-year-old is hitting home runs this year. And just to your point, it was not something that people thought he was going to get to, and now he's hitting over 700 home runs. He's at 703 now. So he's got room to spare at this point. 24 home runs makes any Sox player jealous this year. That's just an impressive number. So congratulations to Pujols. I don't think we'll probably see 700 again, at least until we have some next just generational player. But you look at some of the years he was hitting homers at rates easily over 40 multiple times. I just don't think that's coming again anytime soon. It'd be great if it did, but I don't think anyone's particularly close. It would have to be a player we haven't even seen yet.
I want to give like a little mini shout out to Yordan Alvarez. I give him like a 5% chance, if that. Because if anyone in this current generation is going to do it, I think it's going to be Yordan. He's just too pure of a hitter.
Someone who can slug even so, it's like 33 homers and then 37 homers this year. It's like those are great paces, but it's still not 700 worthy, which is wild. It speaks to just how unique and how special it is that Pujols was able to do it in today's game. Like, again, he needed to hit 21 homers this year to get to it, and he did. Like, that's insane. Or excuse me, 22 homers this year to get to it, and he did. That's insane. Like, what he's been able to do is phenomenal.
I wonder if the desolation of the shift is going to also kind of do that, because base hits are going to be more prevalent and there will be more action on the field that way, and maybe players don't feel like they have to leave the yard as much. Pure speculation.
It will be interesting to see how the game sort of changes again. I'd say shift, but that would have just been a dumb pun. How the game changes again once the shift is not banned, but heavily discouraged from having any sort of true shifting done. So I think that's going to be a huge story point come next year. But you're right. If you're not worried about only hitting homers anymore, what happens now to the home run rate? It'll be an interesting case study for people next year.
Yeah.
But congratulations, Pujols. Congratulations, Judge. You can debate the home run record till the cows comes home. I don't know what everyone's opinion is on that one. I think that's an episode in itself, likely.
My opinion is Roger Maris Jr. should get some rest.
You can't fault the kid for
cheering on
defending his dad, but
let him sleep. It's fine.
That man's got to be union with as many vacation days as he had piled up.
I'm just happy. Albert Pujols got to 700 because At 699, I wasn't sure if he was a Hall of Famer or not, but because he hit number 700,
Just that
I
one
think it's safe
thing.
to say, 700 home runs, that's a lot different than 699.
There you go. It's a fair point. So,
He wasn't a Hall of Famer to me
No,
until he hit 700.
not at all. Never.
Am I bitter that I missed it because I was getting the mail? Yes.
So back when Jim Thome was with the White Sox, he was right around 500. And I went the night before he hit 500. And I refused to go the next day because I had a baseball game. And I had to be 12 or 13 at that point. And I was on the field when I heard he hit 500. So was not thrilled about that at the end of the day, knowing that I could have been there to see such a milestone. And he walked it off. It was a walk-off home run. So it's like I could have been there to see that, and I chose not to be. Probably not one of my finer decisions as like a baseball fan and someone who was never going to play baseball long-term in any way, shape, or form. But that's my connection to a monumental home run, far from 700. But like I said, these don't come around often. This probably won't come around again. And a home run race like Judge had towards 62, I don't know how often we see that either. It's kind of cool that two historic things came up in the same year. And I think we're very fortunate as baseball fans. All right, James, your shout out. What you got?
All right. My beloved Dodgers, they clinched very early. And even though I watch every game, I didn't really pay attention to every game after they clinched the division because it was basically just a formality, them getting to clinch everything. So I started watching to see who would get to 100 wins and who would get to 100 losses, because it used to be incredibly impressive that you could win 100 games, and now I'm not impressed by it because too many teams win 100 games. This is the second time in the last 4 years that 4 teams have won 100 games. And if the Yankees had won today, it would have been 5, which would have been a record. Before 2017, 300-plus win teams happened 5 times. And it's happened in each of the last 5 full seasons. So that, and we have the most 100 loss teams ever, which is not fun if you like the Reds or the Pirates or the Nats or the A's.
It was a weird season in terms of just like there were still some good races, even with the expanded playoffs. There was still some fun with it, but the whole parity issue really didn't fix itself too much yet.
Well,
So that's
it's
what the
crazy.
lottery's for.
Going back to James's point, like last year, it felt incredible that there were 200 win teams in the same division out west. And it happened again this year out east, and no one said anything.
Yep.
Because it happened so recently, it's not that special, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's part of the thing. It's a larger conversation about still the game where it's trending, where it's been heading, and it's still a frustrating conversation. It's like, well, what did we fix?
Sad.
What did the lockout fix? As of now, I don't know. Maybe you got to get more than one season, but that's just being optimistic to be optimistic.
I'm just sad that I'm not excited about the Dodgers winning as many games as they did this year as I should be, because I've just grown so numb to teams in general winning 100 games every year, because it just feels like there's going to be a few of them that do now.
Ooh, I think your Dodgers fan is showing.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And I'm a Dodgers fan. I think it's amazing what this team has done.
This computer. Like,
I think yes, it is a little more common than is happening. But we are witnessing baseball history right now. Like there's never been a team that has been this dominant. Well, maybe back in 18, tungsten arms whole days, but like, this franchise is kind of amazing. And 106 wins came in second last year. That's amazing. And I mean, maybe do we want a loss year to make 100, sound special again? I don't know. I like being spoiled. I'll continue to be spoiled.
Yeah.
I also live in a market where the fans kind of just hate baseball because the owners are so inept and they paid Chris Bryant a lot of money. So
I mean, plantar fasciitis or whatever is
they're very bitter constantly.
Well, let's put it this way. Who was it that I can't remember who it was that posted talking about how Dodgers had 3 million more fans come to the stadium than the Oakland A's did, and that is, that's the top and the bottom, right? And I went to a game in Oakland. I went to a 2 games in Oakland actually, and I'll tell you right off, ownership investing in the stadium and not investing in the stadium is so apparent. Like it is vastly disparate. Like they're both like Dodger Stadium is so much older than the Coliseum, right? But it doesn't feel that way because ownership has kept up with it. And
third oldest in baseball.
Yes. So it doesn't feel that way, right? Because it's current. Part of it is I feel like ownership has abandoned the stadium, has abandoned keeping it up. They do have really nice toilet paper though, I will say. But the city has also kind of really abandoned them. Like it's really easy to be like, oh, there's a lot of trash around the stadium. Not a lot of trash cans. And the one trash can I did see was overflowing. And like, oh, there's a burned out car. How long has it been sitting there? There's a plant growing through it. Like, so I think it's a partnership of ownership in the city. And I don't know enough about the situation to know who's to blame or if there is anyone to blame or if, they have other priorities than that. Oakland has a lot of different issues that it has struggled with recently, but it's just apparent that one team, like even in between the innings, like the cap shuffle was boring. Like no one won a cap. There'd be like a cap shuffle and like it was just the audience like, oh, I won or I didn't win. Like there was nothing with fan forward. I'll tell you, all the employees were super nice and everything, but like they didn't do anything for the fans. And it was really, really obvious that none of these decisions are being made with the audience in mind. And ultimately, like, even if you're like, oh, I'm building the team to win, I don't care about the fans. You care about the wins. So you do care about the fans, right? Like without the fans, without the wins, that's just not going to happen. So it was so starkly obvious the difference between a franchise that thinks about making money in the form of pleasing fans and a franchise that has no apparent or obvious concept of how to do that or if they're even trying.
They're not trying because they want to move to Vegas.
It's
as simple as that.
I mean, I think Oakland's a great market. It's sad what's going on there. I know they have a passionate fan base. The attendance is not related to a lack of fans. It's just the fans are fed up with the product. Mm-hmm. And, I'm going to mention this because it's close to my heart in Colorado. Fans go to Coors Field. Doesn't matter if they're Rockies fans. It's usually not Rockies fans. But the Monforts, they love people like myself who go to all the Dodgers games there because they just love the color green. And they don't care about the team. They just care about making that money. If it means having a great stadium experience, then
that's the difference, though. That's the difference. They're Well, the one advantage Monfort has is that he's a real estate guy, right? Or the Rockies he's a real estate guy. So
he's a meat packer.
Yeah, but he also owns a lot of the area around the stadium, and so it's to his advantage to want to get fans in. It's to his advantage to be as fan friendly as possible. Oakland does not have that. There's nothing. It's literally right next to a lumber yard. So they've made no effort to make it comfortable. They've made no effort. Like the BART is right there. It's great, man. I got off a train. I walked over a bridge. I was at the station. I was at the Coliseum. It was great. So like they really, I think you just proved the point that like baseball is almost secondary to fan comfort when it comes to getting fans in the door. Because, if they're talking about, oh, we can't get fans to come, you are a concrete box and have done nothing to fix that. So you're right. Money can still be made off of a crappy product. They're just not trying to, you're right. They want to move to Vegas, but baseball teams are profitable even when they're losing.
Yeah. It's again, it comes back to that larger point of 100-win teams, 100-loss teams. They're all rampant right now, and you have organizations that are prioritizing the dollars that they can get, even if the team can't win. But before we get to Joey, I'll leave with my one thought on Mr. Spoiled Dodgers fan over there. The White Sox have had one 100-win season in the history of their franchise. It was back in 1917, and in case it's unclear, I was not born then.
I knew you were older than me, but not that
so I know I'm older than most of you, but I'm not that old. So
that was Rich Hill's rookie season, wasn't it?
Yeah, might as well have been. You're looking
Moore
back
is
at, yeah, like, so anytime you're going to complain about, oh, I'm numb to 100-win seasons, just consider your audience, maybe just a little bit. So
I
Joey,
get what you're saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Either way.
so I kind of sympathize with you, Laz. I really do. The last time the Tigers had 100. No, okay. The Nats accidentally won the World Series. That doesn't count.
It's a team of
we had to
destiny.
bring that up right now. We just had to bring that up right now.
Well, I am going to talk a little bit about Juan Soto, sort of related to my two shout-outs. So my first one is for my guy, Joey Meneses, 30-year-old rookie on the Nats, had a 168 OPS plus in the 55 games that he played in the big leagues this year, vastly outperforming Juan Soto, who had a measly, 130, awful. That guy stinks. I'm so glad we got rid of him.
This is shameless.
Do I care that Joey Meneses had a 376 BABIP? I do not. Do I care that he was on pace to ground into 38 double plays in a full season? I do not, because he OPS'd 939, and he was the only bright spot in the last 2 months for the Nats, for the most part. Okay. And the other one is for Justin Verlander, who, has been my favorite pitcher since 2006, growing up in the Detroit area. And if you had told me when I was in kindergarten that Justin Verlander would be the Cy Young frontrunner the year after I graduated college, I would have called you crazy. But what he has been doing this year is absolutely insane. Coming off of Tommy John, he has a 1.75 ERA. Over 175 innings at 35 years old, or not 35, 39 years old. It is I saw, I think it was Pitching Ninja tweeted today that it is the third lowest AL ERA since they lowered the mound in 1968. And if he had gotten 2 more scoreless outs, then it would have been the lowest. So my guys, I've loved Justin Verlander forever, and I'm super happy for him. He's a Virginia guy too, so I've got the double connection to him. Super happy for him, and I'm happy for Joey Meneses too. I don't know that he's going to have the career that Justin Verlander has had, but we can dream.
At least you're
talking to a bunch of Dodger fans here, so
doesn't Joey
Hooray,
Meneses have a
Verlander.
higher career OPS than Justin Verlander?
I would say that's probably likely.
And
Hall of Fame.
if he gets 1 out without allowing a single run, he has a better ERA.
That he does. That is impossible to disagree with that statement.
I mean, Justin Turner has a better ERA than Verlander.
I mean, you also look at it from the other side. Verlander's the only thing standing in between Dylan Cease and a Cy Young right now, so you managed to piss everybody off tonight. So nicely done.
Dylan Cease was on my fantasy team this year, and I made it to the championship with him, and he stunk it up against the Padres this week.
Yeah. I think that just became a case of, I mean, to his credit, like, I want to talk about him briefly. Like, he's made 32 starts in 2 consecutive seasons. Like, to his credit, that's awesome and a testament to the health, but also this team gave up a long time ago. And I think it's hard to mentally get yourself on the horse when you know Verlander's just essentially destroyed your chances of winning Cy Young. So the best you can do is second place, and you're probably going to get that anyway.
At least he has a 6 stash, though.
He does. He does have a 6 stash. I will give that to him. That was.
I wish I could have a mustache like Dylan Cease.
I did not expect it to last through the year, and it did. I was impressed by that.
Give him Cy Young just for the stash, because nothing makes a good pitcher like a good stash.
I'd be fine with
That's
that.
the Raleigh Fingers thought.
Everyone thought
Spencer.
Sandy down in Miami had the NL Cy Young all wrapped up. Do we think Urias has a case?
No.
Let me get my dad.
We talked about this a few weeks ago.
Do what?
Didn't you try spinning this narrative a few weeks ago about
I
Urias?
want to make it clear that I will be voting for Alcantara. It's just my dad, God bless him, loves Julio Urias more than his own kids, probably.
I mean, Urias has more wins. He's got a better ERA.
Just going back to last year when he won 20 games, he's like, "You're voting for Urias, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not voting for Urias. I'm sorry. He's not the Cy Young." I just had to bring it up because he will not listen to me on this point. So I just thought, hey, maybe like 3 other people can make the argument. He still vehemently is pushing the Urias Cy Young narrative. I'm going to be voting Alcantara. He threw, 50 to 70 more innings than Urias and basically the same ERA.
Let's see here. I'm looking it up. Urias, 175 innings. Alcantara, 228. Jeez, what a workhorse.
I know.
I didn't realize it got that high. That's rather impressive.
Yeah.
I will say there has not been a lot of press around Urias for the fact that he has, the best ERA, and there was some downtime and stuff like that. But it's weirdly quiet on him. I'm not really sure why.
He's the 3rd most famous person in the rotation.
I was gonna say,
everyone's
yeah,
healthy.
that's true.
The loaded team kind of.
And the skeletons in his closet, I don't
Yeah.
think people want to give him his flowers.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I will say
there were 2
And
other
it's really sad because a large section of the Dodgers fan base are Mexican American. I'm Mexican American, and it really touched me last night when he clinched the ERA title. The first Mexican American pitcher to do it, playing for the Dodgers, with Fernando Valenzuela comparisons, and for that fan base, it really touched me. But Alcantara Cy Young, I'm sorry.
He might finish top 3 though. You never know.
I would vote for him.
He's my
I'd give him a
number
second
2.
place vote. I wouldn't give him my first place vote.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see.
He's probably starting game 1
because just looking at, I think the NL Cy Young in particular, it's a little bit of what you value.
Mm-hmm.
Where does and it'll be a good test of. I think the AL's locked down. You can't have your ERA start with a 1 and not get the Cy Young.
Right.
But in the NL, you're in a situation where you have, again, a scenario of what do you value? Do you value innings? Do you value ERA? Do you value wins per replacement? What's going to be the value? I'm very curious to see how the voting goes down and kind of how this season or how the seasons have changed some of the voters over time. So my last thought, my shout out will be to the end of the Tony Larussa experiment on the South Side. A lot of us knew the ending to the movie before it even started, and we still got the ending that was expected. I think the most frustrating thing is the idea that, we probably knew that the game had passed a Hall of Fame manager by in the past 10 years. Probably all knew it at the time. Didn't love that the experiment had to be conducted on my personal favorite baseball team, but it's kind of a true testament to how much the game has changed over the past 10 years. I don't think anyone can deny that at this point.
It's
It
like
just did not work,
seeing.
and it is what it is.
It's like seeing a trailer for a movie. You predict the ending the minute after you see the trailer, and then you go see the movie, and you're like, "Wow, that was a piece of shit." I knew everything that was going to happen.
Yep.
I don't know why I just wasted $20 and 2.5 hours of my time.
I mean, I just, on one hand, like, I'm glad he's gone, but on the other hand,
Pardon
like,
my
it's
French.
really sad to see. I say fuck all the time. It's fine. I think it's
I
really
don't mark us
sad.
as child friendly on YouTube. We're fine.
I just think it's really sad to watch just like someone like just blow up his career like that. Like, what's he going to be remembered for? Not his excellent career. He's going to be remembered for falling asleep on the bench.
So, yeah.
Was
So
the one last ride worth it?
That's exactly how I kind of view it. Because when he had his last press conference, you could never deny, and I will give him the credit on this, you could never deny how much he loved the game and wanted to succeed. The love he has for baseball is something since he started managing the White Sox you could see. Then it becomes the other side of it was, well, he did it to himself by coming back. So it's like, yeah, it's upsetting to see someone who loves it that much not get the reward. But at the end of the day, you knew the risk coming in. You knew this was a possibility coming in, that it does not work. And for as much as you wanted to believe in yourself, you were part of you knew you were part of a huge part of the equation of whether or not this actually worked out. So, like, I completely agree. When I watched his end final press conference, I was like, it kind of stinks to see someone who loves this game so much fail like this. But at the same time, you could have walked away in 2011. You were at the top of the world. You won a World Series your final year as a manager. You could have left. You came back.
You had the ending.
You had the ending. You decided to try and rewrite it for, I don't know what it would have been.
Happy endings only happen when you stop the story in the right place.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the proof of that.
Had the happy ending.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, yes, I feel bad, but you chose to continue the story, essentially. So I
he
about
was
that
a
lot
Hall of
for the,
Famer baseball person.
Yeah, and it's not all on him. I mean, the White Sox still hired him. It's like, it's not all on him. He said yes. Like, I think someone who loves baseball that much, hell, if they said, "Hey, do you want to own the Angels?" I'd say hell yeah. That doesn't mean it's a good decision. I would make terrible decisions, but like baseball, like passion and love for something does not equate the ability to be good at it or like the ability to stay current with it. Like,
it's truly a case study in like passion and knowledge. Like,
yeah,
and
he has both, but
for what era?
Right.
Does the knowledge translate to this era? Well, no. Does the passion? Yeah, absolutely. We could still see it. Yeah. But again, it just becomes that. That's why I call it the experiment, because it was, what has the game changed so much in 10 years that a Hall of Fame manager could look completely overmatched at times in the dugout? And the answer is yes. The game has changed enough in 10 years. Yeah. And for as much as people want to say it's still baseball, yada, yada, go back to the old days, it's not where we are. Like, no amount of old-time managers in the dugout is going to change that. The ones who have succeeded and survived have adapted to the game today. Buck Showalter is a great example. Those who have adapted to the game as it's changed have been successful. Larussa,
I mean, Bob Melvin, the Padres right now. Like, literally the guy who bridged the gap, right?
Right.
Like, there's a movie about it and everything. So, yeah.
So it's the end of the experiment. Sox fans feel the relief of a new start, but also this team's in a lot of trouble right now. A new manager, probably a whole new coaching staff. Jose Abreu probably walking away. This team's not in a good spot. So there's only so much relief that comes from, getting a new manager and potentially a new coaching staff. There's a lot of unknowns in what's supposed to be the middle of a contending window. That's usually not how you like it. But that was also a risk this team assumed when they hired a 76-year-old manager, was that there was the potential that he does not finish out his contract for reasons other than knowledge of baseball and walking away for heart concerns and undisclosed reasons medically. Again, you knew the risk going in as a person, as a franchise, as an owner. You knew this was a possibility. You made the mess. Now you got to clean it.
The sad thing,
it's going to be something on the south side this offseason.
I will say, I think the White Sox job is very attractive because we talk a lot about how Atlanta locked up their young talent. The White Sox have locked up a lot of that talent. And it's unproven talent, but if you get the right guy in there, that window swings wide open once again.
Right.
It's just have to be really diligent. The stop sign does not go up until an accident. And the accident, unfortunately, happened. So they're going to be a lot more careful finding the next manager for this team.
I think they just have to look at it and say, this did not work. Clean everything up. Change processes. Let the manager at the top dictate his staff, which really hasn't happened recently. There's been so much carryover. It can't all carry over every single time. Let the manager dictate his staff. Let the staff and the manager dictate the analytics use. Let everything join together. And again, in many ways, the Sox have dug their own bed. Made their own bed. Now they got to dig their way out of it, essentially. I combined like 6 different phrases.
That's how flummoxing this entire Tony Larussa rehire era was.
Like there were 6 different figures of speech in that like little rant, I guess, whatnot, that meshed together. But anyway, I think we're at that point where, again, it's a team that is as mediocre now as it was when it started the rebuild. You have more talent. You got to find the right person for it. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on the outside looking in while we talk about playoff predictions. And for as much as I've been ready to have the Sox in it all year, they're sitting at home. So Dodgers Nation on Diamond Digest gets to talk about the Dodgers for this. So let's talk about the playoff picture. We're going to do a little postseason preview here as we kind of head into the next segment of the show. Here's what it looks like. In the AL, the Yankees and Astros have byes. The Astros will face the winner of the 5th seed Seattle Mariners and 4th seed Toronto Blue Jays. New York will face the winner of Cleveland Guardians, number 3 seed, Tampa Bay Rays, number 6 seed. In the National League, Dodgers and Braves got their byes. The Dodgers will play the winner of the 4 seed Mets and the 5th seed Padres. The Braves will play the winner of the 3 seed Cardinals and 6 seed Phillies. I'll start with this. Most intriguing wild card round matchup is which one?
Cleveland and Tampa.
Why?
Because if Cleveland does what Tampa does well, it's just, and both managers are really smart. I would love to see this just be a battle of the bullpens because Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie are going to do their things in games 1 and 2. And you have to survive one of those games if you're Tampa Bay. And then game 3 is basically going to become a battle of the bullpens, and both of these teams have really damn good bullpens and offenses that aren't necessarily the best either. So it's going to be fascinating to see which manager is going to be the smarter one, pull the right pieces, get the right guy in the right scenario, and it's just going to be fascinating for me personally.
James, what's going on with that bobblehead? You completely distracted me.
This is Mini Mignoso. Consider it a peace offering. You don't like my spoiled attitude. So enjoy Hall of Fame baseball person, Mini Mignoso. It's a limited edition.
It's a cool bobblehead. I think I got the plaque when they gave that out. I have that sitting up there. But anyway, anyone else have a more intriguing matchup?
I do.
Okay, James, go for it. Tell me why it's more intriguing than Cleveland and Tampa Bay.
The Seattle Mariners, for the first time in my lifetime, will be playing in the postseason against the Toronto Blue Jays. And the young talent on Seattle and Toronto, I would say, is far more exciting than the talent in Cleveland and Tampa Bay. You know, you got Julio, you got Vladdy and Bo Bichette and Alejandro Kirk. You got better pitching, in my opinion, with Robbie Ray, the defending AL Cy Young winner, facing his former team. Cool enough. Luis Castillo, who has been awesome for the Mariners. Logan Gilbert, who's been awesome this year in his sophomore campaign. Kevin Gausman, Alek Manoah. Like, those are all stars, if not superstars. It's a loaded series full of talent, full of intrigue. I mean, it's going to be exciting. That's the one I cannot wait to watch personally.
Yeah, if that series was in Seattle, I think the building would be shaking like at every
That's a
two
fair
straight
point.
count because it has been so long. And the Rogers Center is just something else in October. So it is going to be a very, very fun series regardless. Like, there's going to be one moment from that series, I'm going to make the call right now, that we're going to talk about for the next 5 years.
Well,
Because
we're
I think
still
it's gonna
talking
be
about
start of
the
next great Bautista.
we're still
yeah.
talking about the Bautista home run, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's been
It's going to be
like
the next
7
great
years.
rivalry if we're being honest. Like, all the young talent that's everywhere, it's going to be the first of several knockout drag
Right.
boxing matches for these two teams.
That's a good point.
The pessimist in me really enjoyed watching the Mariners this year, so I would like to see them go far.
Let me ask this question, and Tavi, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah.
Who has the easiest path to the World Series of any team?
It depends on if the Mets win or the Padres win. Because I
Okay.
honestly, I may be jinxing us now, but we've had trouble with the Padres or with the Mets. We have not had trouble with the Padres. We've seen them a lot more often. I think if the Mets win, it's more of a crapshoot. I think if the Padres win, I think we've seen them a lot this year and have done well against them.
You would
As
say
far
the
as
Dodgers, depending on
yeah,
depending
as-
on rival.
yeah, I don't know that as good as the Mariners and Toronto is, I don't know that anyone beats the Astros. From those two teams, I don't know if either one of them can do it. So I think those two teams have the hardest path because as soon as you face the Astros, you're probably facing the Yankees, maybe Cleveland, Tampa. You know, if they're on like the right trend, I think it's probably the Yankees. Tampa Bay always pulls out some Devil Ray magic at the end. But I think Seattle and Seattle and Toronto have the hardest path. As for the easiest, I think it does depend on if we face the Mariners or because I'm pretty confident against the Cardinals or the Phillies. We know we've had problems with Atlanta in the past, but I think we're a better team than them right now. It always comes down to who's hot and who's hot when. But, you know, knock on wood, Cody's really hot right now. And Trey Turner seemed to wake up a little bit. And Freddie, you know, all of the guys, all of our, like the big four were kind of like a little bit hesitant there. And they kind of perked back up in these last couple games. And honestly, like I didn't expect much out of the series against the Rockies because we all remember what happened to Max Muncy last year in the last game, right? Like no one, like not getting hurt and staying sharp and staying loose even is important. So I think we've got it pretty easy, honestly. And I'm sure I'll eat every bit of those words at some point in a pie because I am a Dodgers fan. So
I am holding you to
the
that.
Braves, I don't know the specific date, but they've been playing on 114 win pace for a while. So they're the only team that has maintained basically the same pace as this Dodgers team for a very long period of time. So Atlanta
Depends on
has to
who's
go
tired.
through the Dodgers, and conversely,
Yeah.
the Dodgers have to go through Atlanta.
Yeah.
New York really doesn't have that big of a problem until Houston in the LCS. And it has to be their year at some point to beat the Astros. Like, the Astros are the reverse Giants. Like, they don't make the World Series in even years. They only do it in odd years. So I'll say, like, the Yankees probably have the easiest path because they can handle both Tampa and Cleveland and match up decently well against Houston. So they at least have an easy ticket to the LCS.
You're not wrong.
It's just, what do they do when they get there is the problem.
He
James, your
stole my
thought?
answer. He stole my answer.
So it's 2 for the Yankees then.
The hardest path is the Mets. Padres are a good team. Darvish has constantly been good against the Mets, and Blake Snell has been good in his postseason career. So that tough pitching, not fun to deal with in a 3-game series. Then you have to play the Dodgers, who won 114 games. And then, God forbid, they beat the Dodgers. You're probably facing the Braves, who you lost the division to and also won 100 games, along with the Mets. So that's probably the hardest path, in my opinion.
I will say, looking at that now, that is a drastic drop off for the Mets between being a 2 seed and being a number 4 seed. Like, if
I
you
was
look
rooting for
at-
the Braves. I didn't want to face them in a short series. The longer it is, the better.
like, if you look at sort of like how things could have shifted. So, like, for example, if the Yankees weren't the ones who won the AL East and somehow the Blue Jays pulled it out, like, if you start to kind of mix and match teams just to kind of create different matchups, I don't think there's a worse combination or worse difference you could have created for a single team than the Mets going from either playing the Phillies or the flawed Phillies or the Cardinals, who are just always solid but aren't going to be the world beaters, to having to play San Diego, then LA, and then if you get lucky, probably the Braves, and then if you get lucky again, probably either the Yankees or the Astros. Like, the change in their path, looking at it just in a picture,
It's drastic.
is insane.
And
it's just depressing if you're a Mets fan. Absolutely.
for
And
the
then, God
LDS, you're only
forbid,
going to
like-
have DeGrom and Scherzer once. You're not pitching
Right.
them on short rest.
Yeah.
You'll have them for the LCS, but you're probably facing Atlanta at that point, who
And
hit them
DeGrom-
really well recently.
DeGrom's recent numbers have not been good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, God forbid, like, Machado or Soto, like, just connect with, like, one of those DeGrom fastballs, which has kind of been the formula teams have been using to beat him. Joe Musgrove is sitting there at Game 3, and that is gonna be a tough matchup, even in Citi Field. Like, I don't want to face Joe Musgrove in a Game 3. He's probably the scariest Game 3 starter you could have had in this scenario in a wild card series. So you lose one game if you're the Mets in this path, you are screwed. It is going to be so much harder for you to go anywhere after that.
I just can't, like I said, I just can't believe how different of a path it is for the Mets. I think that you're absolutely spot on, James. That is the hardest path by far, and they made their own bed, right? Like, they had that
a
division.
chance. They had a chance
And-
to win in the final weekend.
right?
Look, Atlanta's been great all for the last 4 months. They've been playing
Mhm.
insanely well, and the Mets played at like a 97 win pace. So it's not like the Mets collapsed like we're used to seeing. It's not like this. They had an insurmountable lead, like 7 games up with 17 left to play. Like, that's insurmountable. I don't know any team that could blow that kind of lead. I mean, it was neck and neck for most of September, and they had the opportunity to control their own fate against Atlanta, even with a 1 win. And they lined up their best starters, and they just couldn't get it done. You had to feel for them at a certain point because they didn't collapse. The Braves just caught them. It's not like 07 where they managed to blow that lead I just mentioned to the Phillies and miss the playoffs entirely. They didn't do anything like that. They just played ball and did really well.
I want to ask.
I mean, didn't Atlanta kind of do the same thing last year? Just kind of like played ho-hum baseball and then got hot at the right time. So maybe
decided to start
viable strategy last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think having the less we talk about last year, the better.
I want to mention Cleveland a little bit. Actually 2 teams or 3 teams. I take that back. 3 teams I want to talk about a little bit. Cleveland, St. Louis, Philadelphia. Those are 3 teams that kind of don't get talked about as much when you're putting this all together. Cleveland, because they play a 1960s brand of baseball right now in terms of how the game is played today. St. Louis, because they're kind of always there, just always solid, using the crappy NL Central to their advantage. And then Philly, who kind of just snuck in. You've got plenty of problems if you're the Phillies, but you found your way in. But you still got to play the Cardinals. I'm going to start with the Guardians. Is there any world in which you could see them, let's just say the LCS? And is it plausible to say there's a path for them to do that? Or is it like, yes, but so many things have to align. There's no way it's happening for them.
They have to 2015 Royals it to get to the LCS. Like, the blueprint's there.
Great
like, that bullpen is nowhere near the 2015 Royals, but you just have to hold on for dear life at Yankee Stadium if you get to the division series, because then you're pitching Bieber and McKenzie again in Cleveland. And if you win just one of those games, that series is not going back to the Bronx. They're ending it in Cleveland. You got to hold on for dear life and just get it to the 2 aces and just hope no one in the bullpen even fails a little bit. They have to be perfect because the offense is not great. They're just going to 2015 Royals it. That's the perfect thing. But if Francona could pull the right strings and get the right guy in, they can absolutely make the LCS, and I would not be surprised whatsoever.
The 2015 Royals is a great sort of comparison. The team is like, how did they get there? How did you end up doing that? And I think that's sort of your path where you need to lean so heavily on what fundamentally got you there. And you just need everyone else to be just so fundamentally poor. I just don't know how you get past a team like the Rays, who of all teams, the way they approach the game of baseball, they're the hardest competitor for them, for me personally, because they're the ones who can look at the brand of baseball Cleveland plays and say, we can scheme against that the best, just because they're the Rays. And I said it all year as a Sox fan, I hate playing Cleveland because that is not a team that a lot of teams are prepped to play that style of baseball against. You make a mistake, you are screwed completely. You don't have a chance, especially in the playoffs. When you make a mistake, they are going to make you pay. And other teams are like that in some respects, but I haven't seen it to the same extent that I see it with Cleveland. And that's what's like, is there a path? If they get past the Rays, I say there's a chance they could beat the Yankees. But because I just truly view that as their hardest matchup, despite what the rank or the seeding says. And so let's talk about Philly a little bit too. What does Philly have to do to, let's just say, somehow get their way past both the Cardinals and the Braves?
Pray. Hope Bryce Harper is 2015 Bryce Harper.
So
make sure every ball in the outfield goes to Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, and that was kind of my ancillary question. You kind of answered it perfectly by saying pray, James. Of the, what is this, 12? Yeah, 12 playoff teams, least likely to make either, I want to say two, I want to phrase this 2 ways. because least likely to win the World Series, I would probably put the Mets first, just because of that gauntlet they have to go through. Now, least likely team to surprise and kind of find themselves beating a few teams and making a little bit of a run. I'm saying the Phillies. I just don't see how they do it.
I've been working on a model for the last month now, basically trying to predict the postseason. It hates the Padres, so probably got to be them in terms of least likely to make the World Series, just because of how much I'm just kind of basing it off of that. The Mets are still a good team. Also hates the Phillies. Like, of the three teams you mentioned, it likes Cleveland more than it likes Tampa. So I see the path for Cleveland clearer than I see it for the Phillies, because the Cardinals they're a lot like the Guardians in the sense that they are great at executing the fundamentals. It's their bread and butter. Great defense, great base running. You know, it's hard to win games where you don't make those types of gaffes, especially in the postseason. You need that type of cohesive ball where you don't have to worry that your left fielder's just going to misplay a fly ball. You don't have to if you're St. Louis. You do if you're in Philadelphia. You don't have to worry about those fundamentals. I don't see a path for the Phillies. I really don't.
When you're looking at it and you're putting it all together, like the question for the Phillies all year, and I remember saying this almost exact phrase when we did our preseason preview stuff. Like, we're about to find out if you can homer your way to the World Series, because you just ignore everything else except your offense. We're about to find out if it can work. And
at least they leaned all the way into it.
Yeah, they snuck their way into the playoffs doing it. Now let's see if you can keep going. And that's why it's like, I just don't see the path personally. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and it would kind of change a lot of things in terms of my opinion on how they handled this season. But I don't know. I that is just not a path I see. But also the Mets. It's like the Mets, the Phillies. I don't see it because I don't like how they're built. The Mets, I don't see it because I'm like, that's a lot to ask of any team to go.
The Mets, I'll give a puncher's chance to,
right?
Just because they're a team that won 100 games. The Phillies didn't even break 90. There's a difference.
I'll say this though.
The two.
In 75% of postseason games where one team out homers their opponent, the team that out homers the opponent wins. Is it flawed logic? Yes, because those teams are a lot more complete than Philadelphia. But it's kind of been shown like homers matter more in the postseason. I think Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are going to pitch more innings than Sandy Alcantara this postseason if they go far, because they are going to ride those two to the death.
Arms will fall off.
That's your chance right there.
I'd be excited to see the
2019
Nats. I'd be super excited to see the Phillies do it. I just don't see a path. But
I also just, like, a very small part of me just wants a chaos bracket. Like, just underdog it every time. Another part of me just really wants a Yankees-Dodgers World Series because history, and Twitter will be obnoxious about it.
I might.
No part of me wants an Astros-Dodgers remix. None. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want that baggage.
So before we get
moving to Orange County if that happens.
Before we get to,
isn't that still LA?
Yes. Before we get to our predictions, I want everyone to pick one team. Maybe it's an underdog. Maybe it's someone like, hey, this is my sleeper pick. You know, this maybe isn't the same pick I would say if I'm making a true prediction. This is who I want to be in the World Series. My stipulation here, since we are on Dodgers Digest right now, you need to pick a World Series matchup that doesn't include the Dodgers. This is a sleeper type World Series. I will go first and say, if I had my way, it would be Rays and Mariners in the CS, Mariners to the World Series. It would be Phillies, Mets, Phillies in the World Series. Just a complete chaos area. We got to Mariners, Phillies in the World Series. Just complete chaos. That's what I'm expecting out of Dodgers Digest right now. I'm not asking for you to all pick the Dodgers to go to the World Series because I know you're going to do that in the next one. I'm asking you to give me something different.
All right, I'll go first. I think
right.
everyone's going to pick Seattle because that fan base deserves it.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I would fly to Seattle and go to T-Mobile Field because that will be the most incredible atmosphere in which baseball has ever been played. So if Dodgers aren't in it, I want like the two most passionate fan bases. Like I want an incredible like experience from my couch that I'll never forget. Give me Atlanta and Seattle. Those are two very passionate fan bases, two really good baseball teams with a lot of young stars. It'll be a great World Series and just a great way to grow the game, which is what I want more than anything.
Yeah, but then we all have to watch the chop. I'm not into that.
All right, Tavi, your two teams again.
No, at Seattle. I've been very, very tangentially watching them this series. If not Toronto, I would be happy seeing the young boys up there. I'd like to see Boflo right to the World Series. I think here's the problem is that like we have so much like history with everyone on our side of the bracket, right? Like Atlanta, no thank you. Cardinals, San Diego. No.
Okay, who can you stomach?
Phillies, I got Mets. Honestly, Mets. I would because if you talk about atmosphere, their whole narco party in the World Series, like people's brains are gonna fly out of their heads. Like
that's fair. That
so
would be
so if it's just pure fun and chaos, I would say the Mets because they've been the butt of so many, kind of deservedly so. They've been the butt of so many jokes recently that it would be really nice to see them. And like the chaos of those two teams clashing against each other with like the dancing on the field and the live trumpets and the like that's a show. That's a show too. And there's no casual racism involved. I mean, it's just such a shame that team embraces that because you're right. They are such an electric team. They could just not do that one thing and be a lot more palatable to a larger portion of the audience.
Not a bad point. James, before we get into our actual predictions, your fun prediction. What would you like to see in a perfect world where the Dodgers aren't your favorite team?
In the perfect world where the Dodgers aren't my favorite team, the Mariners are my favorite team.
Okay. So the Mariners, and who are they playing?
Well, let's go through the National League. I hate Atlanta with a passion. St. Louis doesn't deserve jack shit. The Mets, it's funnier for them not to be in the World Series. The Phillies don't have a prayer. Who does that leave us with? The San Diego Padres. And you know what's going to be even funnier? It'll make my heart that is 2 times too small grow to be 3 times too big is when Julio Rodriguez hits the game-winning RBI, gets the game-winning run in to break the hearts of all those stupid Padres players in Game 7 in Seattle. And Fernando Tatis doesn't come close to winning another World Series. Manny Machado doesn't come close to winning a World Series.
Tatis is
none of them come close again. That was their chance, and they lose to Seattle, and that will make my heart grow. It would bring me the greatest amount of joy if it weren't my beloved Dodgers.
I think it'd just be funny, like Machado hits an absolute laser off the wall and then just jogs to first again.
Yeah, I've seen that too many times.
All right, I've done it long enough. I'll give my my actual prediction first. I do think we're going to get. I think we're gonna get Astros Braves. I don't see a way around it. I think I think a little part of me sees the back end of the Dodgers bullpen and goes, something may or may not happen there. That's just me.
I
Dodgers,
agree with that,
Braves.
buddy.
Excuse me. Astros Braves, and then from there, Houston. I don't know. I don't like any of my picks. I don't like it. That's what I'm going to go with. But all right, Dodgers Digest. Tell me who the Dodgers are playing in the World Series.
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying, in the preseason, I picked the Brewers to win the World Series over Toronto. The Brewers did not make the playoffs. So I'm going to weaponize my powers of the jinx here. And I'm going to say it's Yankees over the Mets in 6.
Ooh, that would be fun, though. I would not hate that.
Because,
James?
like, if I take my homework thing off, a lot of the rotation does not have postseason experience. We don't know what Gonsolin's going to look like. Anderson has one postseason start. We don't know who's going to be closing games. I hope to God it's not Evan Phillips because we need him more to put out the fires beforehand. There are little things that kind of concern me, and I'm getting serious 2019 vibes from this team. So I hope I'm wrong and that I put the jinx on the Mets, but that's what I'm going with.
James?
I'm a little split here, Jordan, and I'll tell you why. My gut.
I forget how much fun it is to have you on these.
Well, I like to spice things up, make it a show. It's entertainment at its heart.
I'm having fun.
I have a model that says Dodgers Yankees. I think the Yankees suck. I was a bold dumbass who said the Yankees would not be in the postseason. I also said a lot of teams that were in the postseason would be, but not the Yankees. But my model loves the Yankees. I don't. So model says Dodgers over Yankees. My heart says Dodgers over Astros. Because the Astros are the best team, but I hate them, so they're not winning the World Series.
Davi, bring us home.
Yeah, I'm just not ready for another Astros lineup, even though most of those players are gone, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for that. I want an East Coast West Coast proper New York Los Angeles battle in the World Series. I'd like to see, just for the sake of old times, New York, the Yankees and Dodgers. Mostly, and I just really want to erase that Players Weekend where they had the house painters and the pallbearers. I'm never going to get over that. I'm never going to get over not being able to see those two jerseys on the field together. Because that's if you want to like bring up like getting back to the basics of baseball, Dodgers versus Yankees is like kind of the basics of baseball, right? Like that's seeing those historic teams in a modern setting. I want to see that. I want to see that. And I want to cream them. But yeah, let's see that. If we face the Astros again, it's just not going to be a. Do what?
I want nothing to do with Dodgers Yankees.
I think it'll be the most obnoxious. It'll be the most obnoxious baseball Twitter has ever been. And they'll talk
Dodgers,
about coastal
Astros
bias
will be bad
forever.
too.
That's also bad, but
the toxicity around it.
Yeah.
Dodger Stadium would be the most toxic environment any sporting event has ever been played in. I can guarantee you that much.
That's fair. That would have more narratives surrounding it. I don't know.
That's what the overlords at Fox wrote in the initial script.
I was about to say, I think you're also painting your own fan base with a brush that is got paint from other people on it. But
okay, listen,
will it be present? I don't know.
I saying we were getting spoiled over 100-win teams. Listen, Dodgers.
Hey,
okay. I'll say this: I was there for the Max Scherzer game against the Astros. I've been to playoff that have been quieter than that regular season game. So yes, I know what I'm talking about here when I
That
say
is
it is going to
great,
be
but I don't
horribly
know. I don't know if
toxic.
there's going to be bloodshed.
It's not going to be
I brought
bloodshed.
it up.
It's just every time Altuve steps into the box, we're going to recreate the Cueto chant.
I brought
Well,
the bobblehead
That was
as
what
a peace offering, and this is the thanks I get. Do I need to bring out the Eloy Jimenez jersey out
No,
too?
I forgive you. I had to throw it in there. But all right, so there's a lot of Dodgers in the World
Shocker.
Series here. I assumed as much. We'll as sort of a programming note before we kind of start wrapping up, we'll do recaps. Our This Week in Baseball will kind of turn to this series in baseball. So as the wild card finishes, we'll do a recap as the division series finish. We'll do recap, championship series recap. Our final thing of the year will be the World Series recap, and then we'll kind of take our break over the off season. But before we even get near that point, we are going to do our wrap up here by talking about favorite moments of the year. I don't know if I have one. Mine's probably Dylan Cease's almost no hitter. I spent a lot of time writing a lot of articles about a team that should have won more than it did, and it was not fun. So I'm going to go with Cease. Just the entirety of Dylan Cease was awesome. And the almost no hitter as I sat in a booth at dinner and somehow kept myself composed enough to not flip out when he didn't get it. Rather impressive on my part, I will say. But a bright spot in what was a pretty disappointing season as a White Sox fan. But the Dodgers fans, I'm sure, have plenty more special moments. And let them take it away. Tavi, we'll start with you.
I don't know that I have a standout moment.
Just too many in 111 win season.
There wasn't like in previous years, like it definitely would have been Hyunjin Ryu's homer or like Cody sliding out of his pants during his 100th RBI, which is hilarious. I was there for that. I don't think I had as many stadium moments this year that involved necessarily the team, but the people I was there with. Like, last night I think is one that's going to stick with me, even though we lost. I was there with a friend who I hadn't seen in a while, and we got to catch up, and it was just this real ballpark moment of like getting to watch some good baseball. Joey Gallo did hit a home run, which was nice to see. But like, I think this season has been more like, it's been more chill. And as amazing as those 101 wins have been, it's just been excellence across the board, but it sounds really, but it's like routine, in a really delightful and safe way. Again, knocking on all the wood I can touch.
Oh, this has been
I'm so sorry, but if there is a highlight that involves like baseball world, it would have to be the hotness bracket phenomena that happens every year. This year was particularly delightful.
I figured you'd get a plug-in for that one.
If you're not familiar, or if you're a Dodgers fan,
or an hour 20, and we still haven't gotten the plug.
Well, I was gonna do it instead of the Dodger Stadium, but I was like, let's get the depression out of the way earlier. So McKenna Martin puts it on every year. There's a hotness bracket. It's not the whole 40 roster, but it is seeded. Some of the matchups are tough. But it's for charity. It's for a charity called Peace Over Violence, which fights against domestic violence. This was inspired last year by a certain someone, and we're going to keep rolling with it. But I just saw during this podcast that someone, I did, if you're on the TikToks, I did a TikTok about how like going through the bracket and just the really tough decisions, because like you want to respect these guys, but that's not the point of the bracket, right? The point of the bracket is to objectify a bunch of man meat and to donate to charity. That's
But
the
it's
deal
for charity,
racing.
so
It's for charity. And someone tagged Alex Vesia's wife in it. Oh my God. And I talk about him extensively. So
that's awesome.
That
is awesome.
So off the field, just now during this podcast, seeing that Alex Vesia's wife probably saw me just purposely and intentfully objectify her husband was just a top 10 moment there.
And then in stadium, you said it was all the friends, so the real treasure were the friends.
The real treasure was the friends and
go.
the wives we horrified along the way. Yeah.
James, what about you?
There's two things that stood out to me over this season. One of which was the first homestand. Everyone kind of knew Freddie Freeman was an Atlanta Brave. I think they did him really dirty in that whole Matt Olson trade. But that's a story for another day. He comes to LA and everyone knew, like, look, it's a different environment. Like, I was shocked when he wasn't going to return to Atlanta. So everyone chanting Freddie, like, to welcome him to LA, it was really heartwarming, and it meant
right,
a
that
lot
first
to him.
that double where he saluted, you're right, that was special.
That first homestand was electric.
Yeah.
Whenever he was at the plate, it was I'm getting emotional talking about it now. It was something you don't see very often. It was just really heartwarming to see a really nice guy be welcome to a new team in that way. And the other thing was watching Tyler Anderson pitch, because I'm a sucker for those stories where it's like, hey, look, he was all right, but watching him pitch has been a joy because he's been awesome.
That's a good one. I like that.
I mean, there's a lot of talented players on the Dodgers, but the ones, like, my favorite player has always been Justin Turner, or my favorite hitter, I should say, has always been Justin Turner because of the way he built himself into a major league hitter. It wasn't he was the best player who went to the Dodgers. He became the best hitter while with the Dodgers. And seeing Tyler Anderson kind of follow in that, where he became an all-star with the Dodgers, it was fun to see. And I hope he comes back in the offseason. I don't know if he does, but it was a pleasure to watch him this year.
I like that one. Joseph, bring us home for the episode. What do you got? What's your favorite moment?
To preface this, I remember eating Carl's Jr. in the backyard with my mom and my brother, yelling at our television because Dave Roberts has just pulled Clayton Kershaw in the middle of a perfect game. In what may well have been his last chance to get the ever-elusive perfect game. Thank you very much, Hanley Ramirez. So, my friends and I decide on a whim we're going to Anaheim. Dodgers, Angels. They're Angels fans. My buddy and I were Dodgers fans. We're just going to go, right? They've never seen Kershaw pitch before. And after the first 3 innings, I sarcastically tweet out, I'm like, 9 up, 9 down. Then it's 12 up, 12 down. Then it's 15 up, 15 down. And then we're at 18, and I'm shaking in my seat because I'm so nervous. Then we get to 21, and I swear to God, I'm going to die of nerves in my seat. And not only did he do it, but he took away Robert's argument, we're preserving the arm, we didn't want the pitch count to be high, because he was at 71 pitches through 7 innings. And just the experience of being there, even though he lost it in the 8th, just feeling that and watching him chase what should have been his a long time ago is just something I'll never forget, quite frankly. And it's always going to stick with me no matter what.
I think the build-up, I was at Carlos Rodon's no-hitter last year. And I think the build-up to the no-hitter is almost as impactful, if not as impactful, as that final out or a perfect game or whatever. Because you're sitting from about, like you had said, like the 4th or 5th inning, you're like, oh my God. But you still got 4 innings to sit with that sort of anxiety, that sort of nervous energy. You got to sit with that. So, like, looking back at it, sort of those nerves you have to sit with, that sort of build up to the final moments, like, that's just as impactful thinking back to it. Like, I didn't move. I had my leg crossed. I was sitting there after, like, the 5th inning. I did not uncross my leg the rest of the game. Like, that's how weird. Those are the things where it's like, yeah, the game itself was memorable, but like you're saying too, just going and experiencing the nerves of it, like, oh my God, is this happening type thing. I think that's so cool. So I very much relate to your experience there.
And I have a little personal history too, because my family, we were fortunate enough to have Dodger season tickets. And in 2014, like just this random game wasn't selling. And my dad texted me, he's like, hey, get ready, because I'm going to pull the tickets down in like 15 minutes and we'll just go. Kershaw's pitching. And then right as he's about to pull them, they sell for about face value, right? And we're like, okay, whatever. We don't have Spectrum. It's their first year on Spectrum. We don't care. And then we look at Facebook and we're like, what the hell is happening? And we missed going to Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter by 5 minutes. And I will always be a little bit bitter about that.
As you should be.
Yeah,
The opportunity to see a no-hitter.
Yeah. I've been to a combined no-hitter against the Dodgers, and it really sucks when it's against your team. But hooray history. I saw it.
I think I've seen as many 10-run games where a team has scored 10 plus as I've seen shutouts. I've seen more of those because the only games I go to are in hitter's paradise.
That's fair. I think at the end of the day, it's another season come and gone. Some of us have more to be excited about, potentially. Some of us will be starting to make their off-season plans a little bit sooner than had maybe previously been anticipated. But that's the end of the day. We all have our stories. It's all the joy of baseball in some world or another.
The credits are here, Laz. You get to leave.
Yeah, I get to be done watching baseball.
Yeah, you're talking about off-season plans. It's like, I don't have to watch this team for another few.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm done with it. Like, I can just my hope.
You're gonna be itchy by November. You're gonna be so
be.
itchy.
Don't get me
you
wrong,
are.
I will be. It will be nice though to just sit and watch a baseball game and just try and get back to like, oh, that's how much I love the game.
Yeah.
Like,
It can be fun to watch games where you have no skin in the game. That's for sure.
exactly. Like, and when you have a team that you write about so at such a diehard level that doesn't meet the expectations you had set out, it gets hard. So getting to experience this from the outside, it's like, all right, this is why I love baseball. These are the cool moments. Like I wanted to mention that, and it'll be the last thing I say before we kind of head out here. Some of the cool moments of the players retiring. Kurt Suzuki yesterday, Stephen Vogt with his kids announcing him at bat today, and then him ending his career the same way it started by hitting a home run. Like that kind of stuff it's like that's why we all love baseball at the end of the day. Like we'll have plenty to talk about in the playoffs, but I think it's cool to end with like favorite moments and kind of see the end of some careers at the end of the season, just because it's like that's where you rediscover that love of baseball. So that's just my 2 cents. Like I said, I don't have a skin in the game. You're all kind of just sitting there like, shut up. Like I got so much panic baseball left in front of me. So
a whole week to stew about it.
Exactly.
Well,
but for me,
I'm enjoying this weekend because I won't be able to enjoy my weekends for a long time.
that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, you're probably like, shut up, Jordan. But it is
Hey,
what it is.
look, I'm happy that I don't have to talk to my parents about the White Sox anymore.
I am too. Trust me. So, well, Dodgers fans, good luck. Thanks for joining on, Tavi, Joseph, and James. I made it through an episode of Dodgers Digest. So I'm a survivor at this point with this one. That's going to do it for us. Make sure to tune in. Throughout the week, we'll still have articles coming out. I'm sure there will be plenty to talk about when it comes to postseason baseball. If you don't follow us currently, Diamond-Digest is the website. Diamond-Digest.com is the website. At Diamond_Digest is the Twitter. We'll be posting plenty there. Diamond.Digest is the Instagram. Go follow all of our writers who are on the screen here. Their Twitters are listed for you. Give them a follow. They all do great work. And again, they're Dodgers fans, so you'll be getting postseason tweets from them. You'll be getting me complaining about the White Sox. So there's 2 different worlds. But, and a final word, thank you to everyone who's contributed this season. We still have more to come with these episodes, but who's contributed on podcasts. who's listened to them, who's helped put them out. It's certainly a team effort, and we're thankful for all of our writers, but also thankful for all of our watchers and listeners for giving us people to talk to. Otherwise, we're just screaming into the void. So for Tavi, for Joseph, for James, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the playoffs. And we'll talk to you at the end of the Wild Card series. Take care.